Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today we are doing a little conversation video, I guess, about Kindle books versus physical books. I already made a video about this topic back in 2018, the year that I got my Kindle. Maybe I should hold it. And I compared Kindle reading to physical reading a bit. And I feel like I was very incoherent and weird in that video. And I feel like now that I use my Kindle much more, want to talk more about comparisons. Thoughts about it just because it's fun? I don't know, okay? Generally, I think you can have both. You could run with both because Kindle fits for certain situations in your life more than a physical book would. But I would never disregard physical books. Hello, look behind me. If I was gonna choose, like if you're here for a choice, from a book lover, I would throw my Kindle out the window without a second regret or thought if I had to choose between the two of them. But there's still so many pros and cons, and I realized that when I was making my list for this basically seems like I'm just telling you to go and buy a Kindle because there's so many pros to one. So if you're unsure about buying one, I hope that this maybe can help you decide or like think more about it, I guess. I don't know. So the first and most obvious aspect of a Kindle is that it is more easy to bring around. Oh dang, which Kindle do I have? I should have checked this. I have the Amazon Kindle Voyage Wi-Fi thing. Obviously I have this cover on it, which is now it's really worn. So I probably should get a new one, but I've been too lazy to buy one. It's really nice and tiny, but not so tiny that I can't read the screen. Like obviously it's bigger than a phone, for example. And I enjoy it so much because it's so easy to hold. And this is like one of the things I enjoy the most about reading on my Kindle. It's so easy to hold. I can have the whole thing in my hand. But of course there's bigger and smaller Kindles, I believe. But like I can have the whole thing, at least my version, in my hand. And I don't need to think about like cracking the spine or dust jacket things because, you know, with hardcovers or with UK paperbacks that we have behind here, they can be pretty big. So holding this one in my hand is kind of impossible. Wait, why am I holding two things at once? To, you know, read it without like, I need to hold it constantly and have it open. I mean, that makes me sound very lazy, but it's a thing about comfort when you're reading because sometimes you want to lie on the side, right? If you're lying in your bed, and it's really hard to lie on the side if you need to hold your book like this. And in general, the Kindle just gives you more room to lie exactly as you want to. It's also really nice for like, if you're even like traveling or on the bus, you don't need to think about your books getting dirty or, you know, I know that some people don't care and that's fine for them, but if you want to have your books in eye condition, you don't need to think about it. And also if the book is really thick, like 1000 pages, etc., or just in general, you don't need to think that it is going to weigh more because you have it all here anyway. And also I got like a weird commercial and there's like showing it off to all of you. So it doesn't get thicker or smaller after whatever you're reading. And also you can read porn and no one would know because they can't see the cover. It's like the greatest thing. What is also great about it in general is that if you're gonna travel, which is the reason I bought it, you can bring all your books without actually have to bring all your books. So I was going to Japan for my exchange year, and that's why I got a Kindle in general, because I couldn't bring all this and I was gonna read there. Of course I was gonna be there for a year, so I got a Kindle and I got a library there and I had all my books with me that I could read. I'm gonna talk a bit about like prices and stuff soon because that's like one of my biggest complaints. But yeah, in general, you can have your whole library with you all the time. And of course, it takes less space than actually physical books. Because I know there's a lot of people in Norway that I talked to. They told me that they even stopped buying physical books because, well, it takes so much space. If you read for many, many years, you're gonna have so many books, you're not gonna have space for them. And yes, you need to unhaul them and stuff. But on your Kindle, you can have them forever. Or your e-reader or whatever kind of Kindle you buy. And they're not gonna take more space no matter how much you buy. What's happening with my hair? So that is also great. Like if you person has tiny space and you still want to read and stuff, of course you can use the library, etc. I'm gonna talk more about the library really soon. But like in general, if you don't have a lot of space, then Kindle is the perfect option. I basically like sound like a commercial right now, but I'm really just trying to say that there was a lot of things I didn't consider before buying one. I didn't even know, like I didn't even think about like, oh, it's easier to hold, it's easier to read on. I have a Kindle that has a light in it. I know that some don't, so I don't need to have the light on when reading. It's really relaxing on the eyes. I could read in the dark, you can read when other people are sleeping in the room without like having a light in their face. That's also really nice. Sometimes the light can be very bad after where you are, but with your Kindle, you always have the light with you. That's great. Also, another note is that you can change fonts and size and everything in here. So if you want like really zoomed in, or you have like bad eyesight, etc., it's really nice. And you know, some books have really small fonts and you can feel really intimidated by that. But on Kindle, you can change it. So you don't never feel the small font situation where you feel like it's going to take you ages to read one page, because you can just literally zoom in and out as you want to. Again, I sound like a commercial. And a note, also as an international reader, you get more books more accessible to you, because I live in Norway and we don't have all the books that I want in stores. Like, they're just not there, but like, because I read English books. But I am connected to the amazon.com, not the co.uk on my account. I don't know why, but it just happened. So basically on amazon.com they have all the books. So in theory I could get them. We're gonna talk about price soon though, but in theory I could get any book. So you have availability for all the books that you could want. If you're an international reader and like don't have other options to buy books, or you don't have space, etc., you have the option here, and that is good. So another note is that you don't even need a Kindle. Like, a Kindle is a bit expensive. I got this for my dad because I'm a spoiled brat for my birthday in 2018. I guess I could have bought it on my own, but in theory, it was great that they bought it for me. It is a bit expensive, but like if you have a phone, a smartphone, you can just download like the Amazon Kindle app and you can read on your phone. Now, I don't think reading on your phone is the same as reading on your Kindle, just because the phone light is different, so it feels more exhausting on your eyes for me. And also on your phone, you can have a lot of distractions, like people sending you messages, etc. And it can easily be distracting if you're on your phone and then, you know, get a lot of notifications. However, you can put it in flight mode, but also could be easier for a person that don't want to carry a Kindle and a phone. You could, like, if you're good at it, you could only carry your phone and then read on it just like a Kindle. And people would just think you were checking your social media app. They wouldn't even know you were reading, so you can hide if you're reading if you're ashamed of that. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But in theory, you can also download that app on your Mac. I don't know why I said Mac. On your PC, on your iPad, or your tablet in general. You don't need to buy a Kindle, because you can get the same accessibility and all the things I just said in that app, or whatever other app that you use in your country. Because I know in Norway, if you're gonna buy Norwegian books, you need like a Norwegian Kindle e-reader app if you buy it in the stores here. I don't think you can get it in your Amazon app. You perhaps can. I think you can send it to you. Yeah, you can send documents to your Kindle. I forgot. You get like your own Kindle email address. And if you have like a document, you can send it to yourself and you can read it on your Kindle. So that can be really nice for just like, I don't know, proofreading and stuff, or just like documents you want to read. So that is the thing I forgot to say. Also, you know, Apple has their own like reading apps. Like, they have their own iBook store. So it's not Kindle, it's not Amazon, it's their own thing. And you can get books there too. Yeah, I don't think you can get the ebook from the Apple thing to your Kindle. I tried it before and it was a struggle. So yeah, then you have to read on your phone or your Apple product, whatever. The point is that it is accessible, and that is nice. And it is easy to carry, etc. All the things I just said. But it can also be a bit frustrating, because if you want to look back in your Kindle, like you want to check a name or place, etc., you need to, like, I don't know how to, like, you can bookmark it, of course, but sometimes you don't know you're gonna go back and check something before it like shows up later in your book. I think it's more of a struggle to like go back and forth in pages, because then you need to go back again to where you were, and it takes like, I don't know how to describe it. It takes a bit of time. The Kindle is actually a bit slow, like at least mine. Maybe the later versions are better. This one is now a bit old, but it's been like that since I got it. Like, you write in titles or whatever, and it takes a bit of time for it to show up, like a few seconds every time. Not a few seconds, like 2-3 seconds. I don't know, that's a few, I guess. So it's a bit slow, but like I feel like there's more like a luxury problem, like, oh my god, it takes time to write on it. It sounds really like, I don't know, if you spend money on something, at least since some Kindles are really expensive, you expect it to work in perfect prestige condition, I guess. But the point is that it's much easier in a physical edition, obviously, which is like counter physical edition, to go back and forth and check things. I know, again, as I said, you can bookmark things and jump back and forth, but it just takes a bit of time. Like, it takes to load, and when you're in the zone, it's much easier to just flip a physical edition and check whatever you want to check. So that is the thing. It looks also nice to, like, and also people tab their books with tabs. And if you want to look on your favorite modes and stuff, it's much nicer and easier to navigate. That was the word I wanted. It's easier to navigate a physical book, I think, than a Kindle book. But maybe I haven't used the functions as well. Because in Kindle, you can, for example, search for words and sentences and quotes. So like, if you want to find a quote easily and like you don't want to look through a whole physical book, you can find it super easily on your Kindle. So for example, if you're writing your school paper and you're looking for a quote and you just want a reference, etc. I did this. You can just search for parts of the quote and it shows up on the page. And then you don't have to look through the whole thing to remember where you were going to reference if you didn't write it down beforehand because you didn't know you were going to use that reference. I'm just saying, it's a good study tip. It was really easy because I could just search up the quotes. So now let's talk about the prices, because I've been mentioning it a few times and I think the Kindle prices are weird because they're so expensive. Okay, usually it's almost the same price as a physical book, and that makes the choice between taking a Kindle book and a physical book. I feel like I need to hold it now. If you're a person who is like, you probably collect both, like not everyone do, but yeah, getting to that, you would choose the physical book because I feel like you get more out of it. Like, yes, it's easy to read and all the things I just said, but if you're a book collector like me, I would choose the physical book because so else I kind of wouldn't own it. Like, yes, I would own it in here, but if I want to look at it, I would choose the physical book. I feel like a physical book should sometimes even just come with a Kindle version, but at the same time, some people only buy the Kindle version and they need to have the price that represents all the hard work behind it. There's so many elements in like money and stuff that we don't even know as readers, and you know, the authors need to get paid. So if it's only like $1 every time, the author basically wouldn't get anything, and then yeah, that would be bad. So like, that's why the price probably represents, you know, a print price like a physical. But at the same time, it makes me not want to buy the Kindle version because as a book collector, nah. But if you only buy the Kindle version, I guess, and you were gonna spend money on books anyway, but you decided to only do digital versions, then, well, maybe it doesn't matter to you. But there is sales, and I'm gonna talk about some about sales because Kindle sales is the best thing. Of course, there can be physical sales too, but like Kindle sales, I lived on those. When I was in Japan, I checked every day for sales. I'm not even joking. There's new Kindle sales every single day. And no, you don't get the news releases at once for $2.99 or $1.99 or how else it was, but they usually come on sale after a few months. Like, a lot of the books I wanted to read while being in Japan that I was like, oh my god, I'm missing them, they came on sale later that year, just a few months later, and like super cheap, like $2.99 or $1.99, and I was just like grabbing so many good books, and I still have them in here. And now, well, that's another situation for me, but the point is, you get so many sales. Like, no, you don't get the news releases at once, but there's so many other books you can read in the meantime if you're not the person that cares about reading them literally at once. And even I suggest a tips for you is not to even go just in the sales sections. Like, yes, I went and checked those because every month there's new sales and every day there's new sales. But if you just go to and browse through the Kindle books, there's sometimes just random books that's put down in price for no reason at all. Like, it is not promoted, it just is. There's like these bundles of like the whole series and they are just like $1 and you don't know why. Like, I got Stranger Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares on my Kindle, even though I have the physical editions, for like less than $1 each because they were just suddenly put down in price. And I was just like, okay, I'll get them because then if I want to reread them, I can read them on Kindle instead of carrying around my physical editions. As an example, there's random sales. Sometimes authors announce them, sometimes they're on the sales section, but sometimes they're not. So if you're a person who wants to get more into Kindle or don't want to spend all that money like in a physical edition, just like browse around on Amazon because you always find random sales, books put down on price, and it's a great thing. I lived on that and I still like have loads now, like probably like 100 books in here that I haven't read. Some on my shelf, so like when I'm gonna read them, I just decide to read it on my Kindle. I haven't used my Kindle as much lately when I get home, but that's because I don't want to buy double, as I just talked about, because price. But yeah, prices in general, you know, you can save a lot by owning the book as you want and read it whenever you want to on a Kindle. But there's of course the library. You can use the library for physical editions and you don't need to order them and don't take as much space, just as I just talked about. It's a pro for Kindle, so that is for free. And there's also probably, I think people can borrow from the library as an ebook, so that would be the same kind of, but I don't know if you get it on your Kindle. It's like an own ebook app for the library. That's what we have in Norway, but I don't know how it is in other places. Of course you can buy cheap books as well, like physical books. You can buy it used, you can get it for free different places. I'm not saying there's only option is to get a Kindle, like there's so many options for physical books too. But yeah, so basically I'm editing and I just wanted to add two things. One perfect way to use your Kindle is that to buy the super cheap sales ones that I just talked about if you don't want to like waste on physical editions and stuff, waste. And then you can then determine if you want it or not and then buy the physical edition. So that's a great way to use the sales because then you don't spend as much money. Of course you could do that for example with library books as well. And another thing I forgot to say also is that my perfect scenario in my life would be that I'm so rich that I could buy the Kindle version always and then just read on Kindle because that's just a more comfortable way of reading, and then also just have a 14 physical books. Always have both, because yeah, but then I need to be rich. That would be a great time. And yay, the video is soon over and it's turned so long. I'm so sorry. In general though, if you choose to get Kindle, you don't get a book collection. But if you don't care about that, it shouldn't matter. But in general, the physical book, you don't get the feeling of holding it and owning it in the same way, even though you do own the Kindle. Can't get exclusive editions if you care about that. Like collector's edition and stuff that are pretty. If you care about pretty books, you don't get those things. But like in theory, there's such many different levels of what people care about as readers. If none of those things appeal to you, then it shouldn't matter. But for me, it matters. So, ouch! Oh my god! I just dropped something on the floor. It was a mug, but it was fine. I think reading in a Kindle is more comfortable than reading in a physical edition. Especially if like it's a huge hardback or something. And also, it doesn't damage my book, so that's great. But the feeling of owning and the feeling of the money I spend on books, I think a physical edition is more worth it for me. So yeah, it's a balance, and if I ever go away for a long time again, it would be great to just have my Kindle. I would choose physical books forever, just like I said in my last video when I talked about this. I also even think, by the way, that the newer Kindles has like support of Audible, so you can even listen to Audible on your Kindle, even though of course you could just do that on your phone. But I thought that sounded cool, and I was just like, why do I have this old one here? But like, it works fine, so I'm not gonna get a new one unless this erupts. Unless it dies. Also, one last note is that if you only have your book collection on Kindle, and if a zombie apocalypse happens, or an apocalypse in general, or we don't have power anymore, you don't have the ability to read anymore because you need to charge it, you need power. I mean, I guess you could have batteries, but in the end, batteries would end, and then what are you left with? No books. So physical obviously is better, because of course you could carry them around in a zombie apocalypse, and yeah. Point being that if technology fails you, or if like your Amazon account is banned or something, I don't even know, someone misuses it, you can lose everything. But yeah, I mean, that could happen also like in a fire. Like a physical fire. But point being, I feel like it's safer to have physical. I don't know why. I just mean like technology can fail you. You can get hacked. I don't even know, okay? The physical is yours. I don't know, okay? It looks nicer. But I will never dispute the pros for owning a Kindle. And it's not like choosing either or both or none will make you more or less of a reader. Like, you do what you want. I just wanted to talk about like just my experience with it, because I feel like Bookclub is very focused on owning physical books and talking about physical books in general, and we don't appreciate the Kindle that much. I feel like, I don't know, it's just a thing. Just know that I use it when I do have a book there, or if I see a really good sale, I might get it. If like I didn't have the option to buy physical books at all, like I knew I would never get the option to, like for years, I don't even know, I would probably like buy Kindle books on full price even, because if that was my only option, I would do it. In the end, it's about reading the book for me, but now I have this option and it's not gonna go away anytime soon, so there we have that. I hope that this video was okay. It turned out much longer than I intended it to be, of course, and I don't know even if I turned out to be more coherent in my last video where I talked about this, but I feel like I have had more experience with it now. And every time, by the way, it's gone months between reading my Kindle, and I'm like, I pick it up again and I'm just like, oh my god, why don't I read this more often? Because it just works so well every time. Also, if you're like interested in arcs and stuff and I send it to you not physically, this is where I read all my NetGalley books, for example, so like, it's great to have it for that too. But again, you don't need a Kindle, you can use that, etc. Okay, I think this covers the video. I was just like, do I put it down, do I not? More chaotic energy from me always. But yeah, leave a tablet emoji down below if you enjoyed this, and you will see me soon in a new one. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that this was 1% informative and the rest just pure chaos. Goodbye.